Good afternoon. Welcome to the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. It is Friday, the 3rd of November, 2023. This is program number 1086, and I'm your host, Calixte George Jr. Now, in addition to 101.1 FM radio, you can get us at our website. It is rcistlucia.com. And we are also running on YouTube online. And of course, you just have to search for the Radio Caribbean International page on YouTube, and be sure to like and share that, and subscribe, of course, as well to that page. Now, some birthday greetings for today, for November the 3rd, going out to Mr. Joshua Werner. Happy birthday to you, sir. And also sending some birthday greetings out to Miss Nyla Lafontaine. Happy birthday to you, Nyla, and we're wishing you the very best of birthdays. A bit of history for today. In the year 1534, the English Parliament passed the Act of Supremacy, and that made Henry VIII and all the subsequent monarchs of England the head of the Church of England. In the year 1906, on this day, the International Radio Telegraph Conference in Berlin selects SOS, which is ... as a distress signal as the worldwide standard for help. 1957, on this day, the Soviet Union launched Sputnik 2 with space dog Laika on board, and that was a mostly Siberian husky. It was in fact the first animal in space. And in 1970, on this day, US President Richard Nixon promised the gradual troop removal of US troops in Vietnam. We now move on to our dish of the day. The daily dish is brought to you the kind compliments of our good friends at Tiles Plus.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. With all kind of tiles, come down to Tiles Plus. We also got gasway and vanity. Books, doors, you'll see. Come down to mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Lance Road in Castries, Bossage Grizzly, and Slack Street in Beaufort. Telephone number 453-7939.
Serving now, the Daily Dish.
And welcome back to our program here at the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. Now, we've been hearing quite a bit of late regarding the matter of the public transport sector. And, of course, you'd recall a few months ago, in fact, there was a survey that was in fact being done. It was part of a review of the transport sector, the public transport sector, that is, and of course looking at its effectiveness, how reliable it is, no doubt, how widespread is its availability, how easy it is to use, to navigate. All of those issues, of course, would have been looked at by the consultants who were brought in to review this issue. Now, of course, public transport is very critical all around the world, and in particular in municipalities, in urban areas where you have very high densities. It's really important that you actually do have reliable public transport, because if you don't, what you end up with is lots of congestion. And that is fairly obvious, because you can appreciate that one bus could hold sometimes 30 to even 50 or 60 people, depending on if it's maybe a double articulated bus, or, you got these very large ones, or even double deckers sometimes. And as opposed to the private vehicle, which perhaps at best is holding about 5 individuals, but in most instances, as we can probably look around and see, quite often it's just one person in the vehicle. Some countries have attempted to try to encourage higher occupancy of private vehicles. See, countries like the United States, for instance, there was a time when they were very big on what were known as high occupancy vehicle lanes, HOV lanes, on their highways, because what you're finding is that the transport became highly individualized. And of course, that meant it's becoming less efficient, less effective on a whole, and not very sustainable. So countries that have good public transport, or places that have good public transport, tend to be more desirable to live in. And in fact, in some countries, they've even gone as far as making public transport free. That's the case in a very wealthy country in Europe, that of Luxembourg. It is relatively small, but even by European standards, a very, very small country with about 500,000 people. And a lot of those individuals who work in Luxembourg are actually coming from outside of the country, from neighboring European states, including France and the Netherlands, as well as Germany. And so what you will find is that there's a lot of vehicles on their roads, and they've actually taken a decision there to promote a free public transport system. In other countries, of course, the approaches that they will take may be to discourage people from having private vehicles, but ensuring that there is an excellent public transport system which everybody can actually use and rely on. And that is certainly the case in places like Hong Kong and as well Singapore. And they also do so by making it pretty expensive to buy a car. There are very high taxes on cars, and so they become more of luxury vehicles than things that people would necessarily want. But they can do so because they have ensured that they have a very, very reliable and very useful public transit systems, which can allow for movement of people in a very quick and orderly and efficient manner. And that, of course, is perhaps not what we've been used to here in St. Lucia. We've had a system of public transport that has largely been privately run. In fact, I can say pretty much privately run in terms of the ownership of the equipment, the buses that are on the road, that are providing the service. They're all privately owned. And so although there is some public oversight by way of the legislation that allows for this matter of omnibuses or public transit, it certainly does not really have very much direct government intervention and government action. And so, of course, as a result of that, we have perhaps well over maybe 1,400 or so private enterprises who are running our public transport system. Now, of course, that system is also dependent on the very same roads that everybody else is using. And the importance of that issue, of course, is that they have to be dealing with the very same congestion problems on the road. We don't have any dedicated bus lanes. We don't have any priority bus routes. And so what that means, of course, is that even the reliability of our service, our public transport service, is dependent on the very same road that everybody else is trying to fit themselves on. And that of course, is not easy on the drivers. And of course, they will also tell you that if anybody feels the conditions of the roads, it would be them, because they're on the roads every day. Whereas if you're perhaps resident in the northwest part of the island, you probably would not be using the Castries VF4 road on a daily basis. You may go down once maybe once a week or once a month or whatever the case may be. But when you look at those drivers who are renting in that route, they are on that route every single day. And it gets to the point where no doubt they probably know every single pothole that exists on those roads. And so of late, we've seen some complaints regarding the state of some of our roads. Now, I should also point out that it's unfortunate because in planning for your transport network, you certainly do have to ensure that your primary roads or your arterial roads are well maintained. Because number one, they're getting the most use, so therefore they require the most. They have the most wear and tear, so therefore they require the most maintenance, and so of course they also have to be built at a higher standard than other roads which are getting less use. So unfortunately, we have seen a lot of investment in roads that are not really being used very much at all, and not enough investment in our primary network, and that is certainly something that has no doubt has to be corrected by the authorities right now at this point in time, dealing with the issue of how to ensure that the resources that you have available for road development and road maintenance are properly utilized. Now, the Minister for Infrastructure, the Honorable Stephenson King, has of course brought his voice to the mix in terms of responding to some of the concerns there. And that story was captured by St. Lucia Loop News, which I'm going to share very quickly. Senior Minister Stephenson King has responded to the concerns raised by the National Council on Public Transportation, the NCOPT, which has called for the Ministry of Infrastructure to address the deplorable road conditions across the island. The NCOPT alleges that Senior Minister King, who is responsible for infrastructure, ports, transport, physical development, and urban renewal, has failed to meet with their organization to discuss these pressing issues. On Wednesday, the Public Relations Officer of the NCOPT, Spencer McPhee, expressed the frustration of their members who feel they are reaching a breaking point due to the state of the roads. McPhee warned that drastic action may be taken to force the government to address their concerns. The NCOPT specifically pointed out the dire conditions along the Millennium Highway, which they claimed are adversely affecting productivity and forcing minibus operators to spend more money on vehicle maintenance. McPhee stated, quote, "You have some potholes right around the corners where you don't expect a pothole to be, and they're huge. They're like craters," end quote. In response to these concerns, Senior Minister King acknowledged that a road maintenance program has recently commenced with a primary focus on addressing the numerous potholes that have plagued the road network. This initiative is expected to provide some relief to motorists ahead of the government's comprehensive National Infrastructure Program scheduled for 2024. Senior Minister King welcomed the NCOPT's concerns while highlighting that the issues related to deplorable road conditions did not emerge in the last 2 years. Quote, "I would like to thank the National Transportation Council to address the issues pertaining to minibus operators who are violating the laws that govern the operations of public transportation in St. Lucia, and others who are violating the rights of other people, the rights of young women and other people," King stated. Turning his attention to the Millennium Highway project, Senior Minister King explained that the project has faced difficulties, leading the contractor to temporarily lay off workers while organizing and securing the necessary resources. However, he assured the public that the contractor had now resumed work and was committed to completing the project by March of 2024. Senior Minister King emphasized that the government was holding the contractor accountable for their commitment to deliver the project with quality and within budget, despite the earlier challenges. He remains optimistic that the Millennium Highway project will meet its objectives and improve the overall infrastructure of St. Lucia. And of course, we can well appreciate the angst and the desire to see that Millennium Highway project completed. It is undoubtedly a very important part of the link between Castries as well as the West Coast Road and Castries and the East Coast Road, or the Castries VA4 Highway. And so it has certainly been a route that is experienced a lot of issues. Now, in fairness, I could probably say that I have seen some significant improvement in the road surface, and a fair bit of surfacing of paving has been done to improve the conditions on that highway. So they've actually gotten far better than what they were. Are they ideal? No, certainly not. And we certainly have also seen that there are some parts of that road that actually have not been tackled at all. For instance, the section between the Latoc roundabout and the Tunnel 1, that has not been dealt with. And of course, a lot of that is perhaps still to be tackled by the contractor. So there have been some improvements. The problem in the roundabout section is obviously a difficult one to tackle, because that is in fact where you've got the merging of traffic, and it still is a problem there. And it's the nature of all roadworks, really. At the end of the day, you are going to expect some discomfort and some issues at that point, some delays, which you do have to try to plan for. It's unfortunate, of course, in terms of the public transport sector, because they are pretty much fixed on certain routes. And so perhaps whereas many other individuals could be using the Tuapito-Deglo Road, for instance, to try to bypass that area, they pretty much are probably bound by the routes that they have to serve. And of course, they're also using vehicles which are perhaps not very well suited to be able to tackle some of the roads, the bypass roads that could potentially be used in that instance. So let us hope that that matter gets dealt with as quickly as possible, because as we've all been dealing with, it is certainly unfortunate situation where we've been dealing with this for quite a long time, with issues with respect to the contractor. It has become a bit of a political football, no doubt about it, with the opposition trying to use this matter to, I suppose, gain political points, albeit, of course, they were the ones around when this project was, when contracts were awarded in any case, and all that process. So they, in fact, are part of the entire issue of governance overall. But let's hope that we can see the end of the tunnel sooner rather than later. That's our dish of the day. When we come back, we'll take in your calls.
This has been The Daily Dish.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. Did all kind of tiles. Come down to Tiles Plus. We also got gasway and vanity. Books, doors, you'll see. Come down to mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Lunchroom in Castries, Bosses Rue Grizzly, and Slack Street in Beaufort. Telephone number 453-7939. Tiles Plus.
And welcome back to the Lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International. Of course, the number to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, it is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. Now, again, coming out from the Loop News, another story related to the similar issue of public transport, this time from the Choiseul Minibus Drivers Association. And they're saying minibus drivers from Choiseul are suffering in silence due to politics. And that story reads as follows. Minibus drivers from Choiseul who ply the Vieux-Fort Choiseul route are severely affected by the deplorable conditions of the road in their community, but they would rather suffer in silence because of politics than vent their concerns openly. That's according to the vice president of the Choiseul Minibus Drivers Association, Alexis Louisi, who spoke with Loop News. Some of the areas where the roads are in a deplorable condition are Delse, Boisden, Francio, and Ravino. The majority of the drivers plying the route are supporting the St. Lucia Labour Party, Louisi said. Their vehicles are mashing up and they are complaining about the increased cost of maintaining their vehicles, but yet they are silent, he added. According to Louisi, a few of the drivers plying the route are willing to take protest action, but the majority are not willing to do so. Quote, they love the party they support more than themselves, Louisi lamented. According to the outspoken minibus driver, who is seen as a lone voice in the wilderness, while other drivers plying the Vieux-Fort Choiseul route are afraid to vent their concerns openly, he will not remain silent on the vexing issue. He is calling on the district representative of the area, Bradley Felix, to play his role in ensuring that the crater-like potholes in Choiseul are fixed sooner rather than later. Speaking with multiple residents of Choiseul, they said they share the same sentiments as Louisi. Quote, some of those minibus drivers are suckers. Under the former administration, they said they are not eating roads. Well, the bad roads are now eating them, a resident told Loop News. And so this time coming from Choiseul, some complaints coming out there regarding the matter of roads in Choiseul. Now, it's of course interesting that we're seeing some of these complaints. Choiseul is geographically a very interesting part of St. Lucia, and that is because it has... some people even say that, they think that Choiseul is one of the largest districts, and, it seems so very spread out and what have you. In terms of area, Choiseul is actually not that large. It's actually one of the smaller constituencies or districts in St. Lucia. But its topography, the nature of it, with a lot of ridges, which are running, parallel to each other for the most part, and then eventually, meeting up in the northern part of the district in the Victoria, Mont-Jacques area. You find that it seems that it's very circuitous to get from one part of Choiseul to the other. So you could be, for argument's sake, you could be in Diga, and you'd be looking across the ridge to Roblo, but it's relatively close when you think of it from that distance. But to drive to get there, it is certainly very, very circuitous. You got to go and do a very long loop in most instances. So that's the challenge with Choiseul. It has lots of ridges and lots of roads along those ridges. Lots of roads to maintain per capita for every person living there. It's of course one of the most rural parts of the island, and so you are seeing, of course, a major cost involved in terms of maintaining those roads. Now, a significant amount of those roads were actually done sometime back between 2004 and 2006, I believe. They were funded through assistance from the French government, AFD, Agence Française Développement, and a lot of those roads were actually done at that time. So you can well see that they're getting to that point where they're nearly 20 years old. And the other thing too about it is that we're actually seeing a lot more use of those roads of late. You've seen a lot of people investing in properties in the Choiseul area, and that is also having a certain impact in terms of usage of the roads. And so, and of course, the wear and tear is going to come with that. And if you have construction going on, people building Airbnbs, you are going to find that you need more maintenance in those areas. And of course, as the road ages as well. And so it is pretty much probably almost time when a lot of these roads probably have to be redone, completely rehabilitated. And again, it is the challenge of dealing with road development in a tropical island, heavy rainfall. And the water is not your friend at all. And so it is a major challenge in dealing with these areas. And of course, ensuring that the roads are well maintained. And of course, also ensuring that they have proper drainage so that the water, and it's properly cambered, it's properly graded, so that you don't have this issue of quick loss of the road surface. And so let's hope we can see some action there too. I'm not too sure how bad the situation really is, but as we can well appreciate, it seems as if everybody is clamoring for roads. The big question is whether we can in fact afford, or what can we in fact afford as a country when it comes to the matter of roads and road networks. And it is definitely something that has to be looked at holistically in terms of how we approach development. If everybody had to be living in a spread out, dispersed area, it would mean that you'd have to have more roads. That's the challenge that we're having right about now. And so you're seeing a lot of development that is somewhat sporadic, and of course everybody then therefore expects a good and decent road to their home. And this is why development has to be orderly. This is why you need to try as much as possible to phase things in a certain way, to ensure that there is some good cost-benefit analysis when it comes to the matter of road construction. Because, let's face it, we have some very pressing road issues in terms of congestion. The Castries-Grosley corridor is a very good example of that. We're seeing lots of vehicle traffic on that on a daily basis. It leads to, when you've got congestion, when you've got accidents, which leads to more congestion, what do you have? You have delays, you have loss of productivity, you've got lots of challenges in that regard. So part of the issue is, can we travel less? Can we do things in a better way in terms of how we move? And a lot of those things, of course, are lessons that we may have or should have learned during COVID-19. And maybe we do certainly need to look at as well. And so the whole conversation about e-governance, about digitization, about ensuring that you've got better online services, those things, unfortunately, are still lagging behind, because that's a really important part of the equation when we deal with transportation. Part of it is to reduce the demand to travel. And you therefore have to ask, well, what are people traveling for? And if people are going to be traveling to Castries and they've got to be doing so on multiple occasions just to get a passport or to get a driver's license or whatever the case may be, you can see that the number of trips that are being generated could potentially be reduced if we have better adoption and utilization of e-services. It is something that we are seeing a little bit of progress on. I know the DigiGov program, but there are still so many government services that need to be brought online. and to be made more available to individuals, whether they're staying at their homes or at their workplaces, so that they do not necessarily have to physically move to actually use services or get those services. And of course, in as much as it is a government issue, I think it's also an issue across the entire country in terms of the private sector as well, in terms of how they can also make improvements to ensure that people don't have to be going out as much to utilize a service. And that's a very critical part of that equation. Now, at this point, we're going to have to take a break to take in our weather report.
Thank you so much, Calixte. The weather report at this hour is brought to you with the compliments of Island Style Thailand Bath.
Make your home merry and bright with Island Style's massive Christmas sale. Our wide range of porcelain and ceramic tiles are on sale up to 50% off. And that's not all. Save up to 15% off. Bathrooms with bundle and save. The more you buy, the more you save. On gorgeous bathroom vanities, bathtubs, faucets, shower glass, toilets, and more. Plus, contractors and tilers are in for a treat with our special discounts on tiling tools and accessories. Sale on now at all locations: Castries, Rodney Bay, and Viewfort. Or call 450-452 or 453-TILE. It's time to deck the halls, deck the walls, or even deck the deck with huge Christmas savings only at Island Style.
This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
And that is correct. The weather report is as of 12 noon today. It's the 3rd of November 2023. Our forecaster this hour is Venantius Descartes. The forecast for St. Lucia valid for the next 24 hours. The winds will be blowing from the east near 15 miles per hour or 24 kilometers per hour with gusts near showers. And the weather, mostly cloudy skies with scattered showers which may be heavy at times and a chance of isolated thunderstorms. Residents in areas prone to flooding and landslides are advised to exercise caution, so please be guided. So again, we're looking at winds blowing from the east near 15 miles per hour or 24 kilometers per hour with gusts near showers, and the weather mostly cloudy skies with scattered showers, some of which may be heavy at times, with a chance of isolated thunderstorms, and also a call for residents in areas prone to flooding and landslides to exercise caution. On now to the marine forecast for seas in a 25-mile or 40-kilometer radius from St. Lucia. Presently, we are experiencing low tide at the Castries Harbour. The high tide will be at 6 minutes after 7 tonight. For the Vieux Bay, the low tide will be in the next couple of minutes at around 15 minutes before 2, and the high tide at 13 minutes after 8 tonight. The seas slight to moderate, the waves 4 to 6 feet, the same as 1.2 to 1.8 meters in open waters. The Lesser Antilles is looking as partly cloudy to cloudy skies with scattered showers and the chance of isolated thunderstorms. The tropical weather outlook, a trough system will continue to cause cloudy periods with showers of isolated thunderstorms across the Lesser Antilles during the next 24 hours. Light to moderate easterly winds will persist over the Eastern Caribbean for the next couple of days. So that is a trough system will continue to cause cloudy periods with showers and isolated thunderstorms across the Lesser Antilles during the next 24 hours, and light to moderate easterly winds will persist over the Eastern Caribbean for the next couple of days. That is the official weather report at this time. Join us again in the morning at around 6:30. We have another report from the Met Service due on this station. Thank you, Venantius, for the update. Weather was made possible by Island Style Thailand Bath.
This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1.
Make your home merry and bright with Island Style's massive Christmas sale. Our wide range of porcelain and ceramic tiles are on sale up to 50% off. And that's not all. Save up to 15% off. Bathrooms with bundle and save. The more you buy, the more you save. On gorgeous bathroom vanities, bathtubs, faucets, shower glass, toilets, and more. Plus, contractors and tilers are in for a treat with our special discounts on tiling tools and accessories. Sale on now at all locations: Castries, Rodney Bay, and Viewfort. Or call 450-452 or 453-TILE. It's time to deck the halls, deck the walls, or even deck the deck with huge Christmas savings only at Island Style.
And welcome back to the Lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International. Of course, the number to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, it is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. Let's go to the phone line to take in our first call for the day. Good afternoon and welcome to the Lunchroom. What's on your plate?
George.
How are you doing, caller?
Not too bad. Now we're going to the ocean today.
Okay.
Going to the sea. You had a lady once on your program, and she is a program about the wealth on the seabed. I can't remember. I don't know if it's the Blue Horizon, but it's Blue something was the name of the program. But I was watching Discovery last week, and they're showing you the seabed, and they show you the things that lie down in the seabed, and they said the riches that's lying down there waiting to just pick up. There is in the Pacific, there is something the size of your 1 inch of your big thumb, and that made out of silver and copper, and it's abundantly in that seabed, lying in that seabed. And copper is the metal of the future, because all the electric cars, that's what they're using now. They're using a lot more coppers to make electric cars. So they're talking about that there abundantly, but they haven't got a way of retrieving it to get it from the seabed to shore. And that's in the south, in the Pacific.
Mm-hmm.
And they have another one. Where you close your hand, the size of your thumb, it's like a stone, but that make out of a precious metal as well, what we use on Earth. So the seabed is so rich. They don't know when they will start mining those stuff on the South Pacific, how they'll share the money, because they tell you the money will go in trillions and trillions of dollars. On the Pacific Ocean is no man's land. That is international water. So if they retrieving those things there, they will have to share the money. But they don't know how that money will be shared, because it's so much money that will bring
Yeah.
to the people that retrieving it, that mining it.
No,
So
you asked, caller, that
see
is
the
very
wealth.
correct. And we have been speaking a little bit about it, as you rightfully said, about the blue economy and the possibilities of that. And we see a lot of different uses for the for that space, the marine space. Beyond just the fishing, beyond even the oil and gas exploration, below the surface. The seabed issue is, as you rightfully said, a matter of minerals and mining, of deep sea mining is a whole other major one. You've also, of course, got the use of of these regions for energy generation, for renewables. So there are a lot of it, and as the technology improves. You know, we have drones, of course, and we're seeing the impact of drones in so many different fields, from delivery services to war. And you also have a lot of the use of, underwater, the equivalent of that, you could say, remote operated vehicles, where these vehicles can go into depths which human beings simply just can't go. And of course, so that is opening up a lot of different opportunities there. And of course,
those mineral lies in the Pacific, the water is about 2 miles deep.
Exactly, and that's the pressure down there is immense. It's dark. It certainly requires a lot of technology to be able to get into those types of environments and to be able to source information. So how do you get the material out? That's a whole other process too. Remember what we just saw with
the other thing they find on the seabed? Real earth. And that was a lot of money.
Rare earth
that's
metals.
What they used to make the silicon chip.
There've been a lot of different. Yes, they're finding lots of different minerals in that region, and so yes, the possibilities are pretty tremendous, especially even where they have these volcanoes, these hydrothermal vents. You get a lot of different materials coming out of those vents as well. So yeah.
But even last week I was watching Guyana, and they're showing you the mining the gold in Guyana. But they tell you a lot of that will come out from when the satanic plate put pressure and they build that hills, and that hill there a lot of the gold come out straight from the sea. Where they're showing you how they call it. A place in Guyana, and they mining gold. Somebody pick up a piece of nugget, and it weighs 6 pounds.
Yeah, sometimes depends on where the resource is, caller. You'll find that sometimes, like in some places, the coal or whatever you're mining is under the water, so you end up having to dig shafts under the water, horizontal.
The best coal you'll find in the United Kingdom is in Wales, but where they mine it? Under the sea, no? Yeah, under the sea. Well, under the sea, but I travel from England to France to Naguado, and from Waterloo to Naguado. It is on the Chaplain. And you'll think you're probably in Oxford Street or anyway. You don't look like anywhere under the ocean where the train running.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that connection between England and France. But
England and France. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's So you are going to find that human beings are going to be exploring some of these parts of the world. I mean,
but that thing there, the one I had put the name down. That is the size of your thumb. You take 1 inch of your big thumb, and that is the size of it. And they said that take 1 million years to grow that size.
Okay.
But it's so abundantly in that seabed there. They will they will want to know how the money, because they stand to make so much money with that, how that money will be shared. And I know is, say, Russia, China, America, probably Japan, but none of the poor country wouldn't be there.
Well, caller, you've heard it that the ocean is less explored than even the space, So we're still
trying to explore the ocean.
There's so much that we are still uncertain about, and we haven't, and we're getting the technology now to be able to do so. And yes, it is going to be opening up some amazing opportunities for some countries that have the technology to be able to do so. And have the money.
Already rich, and they will get a lot richer because they're so damn greedy.
And also, let's look at what's going on, and the politics of it too. Even in the South China Sea, for example, with the matter of China and Taiwan and Japan, the Philippines, Vietnam. So all of these countries have interests in there, and they know that there are resources, and so they're trying to.
The Philippines, they tell you there is a vast amount of oil under those islands there. That's why China want to take all those islands, and even want to go to war with the Philippines and other country, with America, for the island. Because that is the South China Sea. You have to go through there to go through Vietnam, and Laos, and all those countries there. And China want to just claim this whole sea and say that is mine.
and they have a historical claim. That's what they will say that they have for that entire area. But, this is the nature of geopolitics. Just as we're seeing right now, Venezuela asserting a claim which has been long-standing.
That is long going
over the Essequibo region.
Some kid, because they said Guyana is what 83,000
square miles.
Mile, and most of that land was taken from Venezuela. Is British. the Britain that cut the land and say, well, that's Guyana and that is Venezuela. But Venezuela going into history where that was theirs.
Yep.
So they always want to go to war, but now Guyana getting oil, they getting gas, they getting everything there. So that will bring trouble between them.
Indeed, caller. Indeed.
Anyway,
men and its boundaries. Okay, thank you very much, caller. Have a good one. And that, of course, is a major part of what we're seeing right now unfolding in so many different parts of the world, whether it's in Ukraine and assertions by Russia of territorial rights, and the similar situation, of course, in the Levant in Palestine right now, with Israel as well as Palestine. Two places, different names, similar claims over the same territory, and of course we are seeing how that is impacting global affairs and global politics, and of course, unfortunately, a continuing rising humanitarian crisis in Gaza for people, Palestinians, who've already suffered so very, very, very much over so many decades now, and so now to be facing war again, it no doubt must be extremely tiring for a lot of people who are simply trying to live their lives, and the impacts that this is having on them. Of course, they are fighting in many ways, and a lot of people are fighting for the right to the same thing. And as to whether there's going to be an eventual outcome, something that we can call peaceful, something that we can call fair, it's hard to say at this point. The politics of the Middle East is very, very complicated. And it is changing with demographics as well, as the demographics of the place changes. There was an interesting, I think a little infographic which I saw recently looking at the state of Lebanon, and which was once upon a time known as Lebanon, Syria. So it is in part of, when we even here where we see a lot of persons of who are ethnic, we call them Syrians, ethnic Syrians, who may very well be from Lebanon, but it really was this one province of the Ottoman Empire, Lebanon, the Lebanon, Syria. But of course, because of European pressure, pressure by the French, especially over the protection of the rights of Christians in that region, you eventually saw the creation of Lebanon, and of course the influence then. At that time when a lot of that was going on, that region, which was Lebanon, was about over 90% Christian, largely the Maronite rite. But today, Lebanon today is a very different place. It's actually no longer majority Christian. It's actually majority Muslim. Albeit it's not a major, but a vast difference. I think it's like maybe 45, 55 kind of, but it still has shifted over time. And these issues, of course, have impacts on the politics of the place and what have you. And so even in Guyana, which we're seeing is currently experiencing a significant boom in the economy, and they can be speaking of significant investments. They right now are having the challenges of trying to ensure that the infrastructure is keeping up with the requirements. They have currently experiencing load shedding because the demand on their national grid is too much. That not everybody can get power in Guyana right now as a result of the rising demands coming from all that we're seeing right now. New businesses opening up. So many hotels are now opening up to allow for space for people who are coming in. So a place where very few people wanted to go and were not thinking about taking a vacation, and they were not thinking about doing business there, is seeing a flurry of business hotels opening up. And of course, when countries go through these periods of very rapid growth, they can experience what is known as Dutch disease. And that is effectively seeing where you've got one sector doing so very well that it dominates and almost drowns out all the other sectors. And what that does in particular is that because this is it's a high value sector usually, that means that the prices that people set are now based on that sector. We see it a little bit here in St. Lucia. For example, the price of a taxi service in St. Lucia tends to be very high. Why is that? Because we have a very dominant tourism taxi sector. And so people will gravitate to that because they will figure, well, it's better for us to be making US dollars than EC dollars, in a very simple way of looking at it. And so therefore you get that impact there. People start quoting prices in US and not in the local currency. And so Guyana is going through this very same period right about now, where they're going to be the prices of goods and services are now going to be set based on the individuals who can really afford them right up at the top. And so it's going to impact on rental accommodation. It's going to impact on so many different areas of their economy. And so the risk that you face in these types of situations is that you will have a lot of people getting left behind, especially individuals who are not keyed in to this high growth sector, which is in this instance oil and gas. And so you then have a lot of issues of inequality, income inequality. And of course, we do know that Guyana has also had, again, because of its history, a very difficult situation in terms of ethnic relations. And of course, it too has seen its population, its demographics change over the decades. And that too has been very divisive from a political perspective. So how divided, how polarized countries are has a lot to do with this issue as well. In fact, quite recently, I did think I noticed there was a very interesting infographic looking at the matter of polarization, and there's a barometer that's used. It's called the Edelman Trust Barometer. And it looks at how polarized countries can be. And it uses 4 metrics. One is economic anxiety. The other is institutional imbalance. 3 is class divide. And 4 is the battle for truth. And it looked at a number of countries around the world and saw where those countries actually fell in terms of polarization. And countries that are not so, and they use a sort of a graph to actually show it. Obviously, we can't really share that right now, but it really judges whether people believe, on one hand, whether they believe that these divisions can be overcome, and also how divided somebody also perceives their country to be. So countries that are considered less polarized include countries like Indonesia. And it's not to say that, of course, Indonesia is a purely uniform society which doesn't have its own issues, but there are certain aspects within the Indonesian society that are actually lending itself to be not as polarized as many others. Malaysia, Saudi Arabia, and you can understand Saudi Arabia to a good degree because there is a significant amount of spreading of the wealth amongst Saudis or nationals or citizens of Saudi Arabia. Singapore is one of those countries considered less polarized. China, as well as India, interestingly enough, albeit we do know that India has had over the years considerable challenges with respect to matters of religion and race, as well as that of the United Arab Emirates. And then you've got some countries in the middle, which are considered moderately polarized, and those would include countries like Thailand, Nigeria, Ireland, Canada, Australia, Kenya. Countries at risk of being severely polarized include countries like Brazil, South Korea, Mexico, France, the United Kingdom, Japan, Netherlands, Germany, and Italy. And you're seeing there a number of European countries at risk of being highly polarized. And you can look to them and seeing, well, what are some of the issues there? They're facing cultural cliffhangers. They're facing cultural difficulties, overcoming some significant areas where there's sharp divides in people's beliefs. And so it may be over lots of things. We're seeing a lot of issues over gender, for instance, in some of these countries. We're seeing lots of issues over the rise of migrants, immigrants coming into these countries. And the issue of immigration in Europe is a highly divisive one. And so you're seeing in some of them those issues coming forward. Severely polarized countries, interestingly enough, include Colombia, the United States of America. And I think nobody can doubt that one, because you've seen in the case of the U.S. some very sharp divides on the basis of politics, on issues of religion and values. You're seeing some really major scrums being fought in the United States over so many issues, and it is a highly polarized society. South Africa is also one that is identified as being highly polarized. Spain and Sweden, and the country that has been deemed the most divisive in the world is actually Argentina, interestingly enough. And the issues there, of course, a lot of them have to do with the issues of class, issues of worries over the matter of the economy. Argentina, for many, many, many years now, has been facing a very difficult situation where it's been seeing lots and lots of rising inflation. People really can have almost no confidence in the currency. Lots of emigration, people trying to get out. And so a lot of these issues can be very divisive, especially, of course, in terms of the politics as to how to solve these problems as well. And, of course, we can ask our question whether St. Lucia was, in fact, polled, where we would find ourselves at this time in terms of polarization. Let's take in a call at this time before we end the program. Good afternoon and welcome to the Lunchroom. Hi, caller. Good afternoon. I think the caller is listening to the radio or whatever device they're on. Hello? Hi, caller.
I said you're traveling all around the world, but right in St. Lucia, there's a lot of division, you know.
Well, that's exactly right, caller. We're seeing quite a lot of division.
It has to do with politics.
And
it's it's frightening, you know, sometimes when you listen to some of the comments.
I think, caller, you're listening to yourself on the radio? Yes.
I said when you listen to some of the comments, when you have people saying they're tired, 2 years is just too much pain and suffering, and by any means we'll do things. If it takes days to shut down and block and do all those things, you know, this is a little bit frightening, because when you hear those things, you don't know how far people will go just for the greed of power.
Yeah, well, it is a reality caller that you're raising there. And yeah, we're seeing issues not being argued on the merit of them. We're just seeing a lot of issues that are just becoming so very senseless at this point in time. I mean, the one of St. Jude Hospital is a good example of that. I mean, the most important thing is that we need to see a hospital operating in the South. All right. Effectively, we want to see a completion of the project. How can that be done as quickly as possible? Right. And that should be the main thrust. And then to say that you're going to have a protest over a project that you're trying to push forward is a little strange. I could understand if the issue was that the project has stopped and then you don't want to, you're not seeing any action, any work happening. Then I could understand maybe some anxiety there, you know.
Yeah.
But it's almost as if you have a problem with the project being completed. So it's a strange position to be in. I mean, obviously.
Even the stadium. Now I'm hearing that the stadium is not going to be built. Thing because there wasn't money for the stadium, and that the Prime Minister is telling lies because the money he's getting for the hospital, there won't be enough for the stadium. So you hear all of those things. And
there won't be enough for the stadium?
Yeah, that's what he said.
That's still strange. It's a significant amount of money that has been sourced, 200 million EC dollars. I don't see why that would be the case, but I don't know, caller. That is a bizarre one.
So even just this morning, I had the guys race horse thing they had. I think for the Creole horse race, the place where the guys were
along the disused runway. Yes,
it was messed up. Somebody actually went, I don't know if they used a back or whatever, and actually dug up and made a total mess out of the place, making it unusable. SASPA is saying it's not them did it, and nobody know who did it.
Caller, sometimes.
You know how far people are going. I just find, never in my life I've ever heard things behave that kind of way in St. Lucia before politics. Never. Okay. I am leaving now.
Okay then, caller. Thanks very much for your contribution. Have a good one. And that's all the time we have today and for the week here at the Lunchroom. We'll be back again, God willing, for another week. And, of course, hope you can join us for that. Do have yourself a very safe weekend. I'm your host, Calixte George Jr., saying goodbye.